game was wild. Unbelievable. Headline, Kevin Durant's going to New York, right? Is that the oh, wait a minute.
That is the latest headline.
And then you want to finish the headline?
Yeah, he's going to New York for doctor evaluations on his injured right Achilles.
There you go.
According to Shams.
There you go. Joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, 3-time NBA champion, now an agent with the Wasserman Media Group, the executive vice president and managing executive on behalf of Casey for his media group. Good to see you, BJ Armstrong.
Rich, great to see you.
All right, let's get right into this, because you heard what I had to say in the first segment of this show. Then you sit down and you, what's the word for it? You were surprised to hear that maybe people are criticizing Nick Nurse for taking that timeout with 3 minutes to go, and then everything changed from there on out. Why do you profess a little bit of surprise on that front, BJ?
Well, when you watch how the game was being played last night, they were clawing and fighting to get back in the game. They were down 10, 11 points in a significant part of this game. Mm-hmm. And this wasn't a game where it was going back and forth seesawing, who was exchanging within the game. So for them, they had to spend a lot of effort and energy just to get back in the game, right? You have a 12 to 15 point swing during that time from they were down 10, 11. They go up,
6. They
go up 6.
Yes.
So that's a 16, 17 point swing. And I thought at that time, because of the energy that they had to expend to get back in the game, that it was a great timeout, because you give your players an opportunity to regroup, kind of get them back into the focus of let's close this game. It wasn't a game where they had control of the game all game. That was their first, if I recall, that was their first lead during the course of the game. And if you're going to win a game at that stage, defensively, you have to get a stop. Right. Offensively, the only thing that I saw that really bothered me during the course of that run there was Kyle Lowry drives to the basket and didn't get a shot up at a critical moment of the game. Even if it gets blocked, just get a shot up. He throws it out to, I think it was Marc Gasol. It's a turnover. That to me was more critical than the timeout, because you always want to get up a shot. If you get up a shot, you might get an offensive rebound, you might get a tip in, or more importantly, you might get it and you can start the shot clock over. So I thought at that time it was a good timeout to give his team an opportunity to say, you know what, we have to get a good shot up every time down, and defensively we have to get a stop, which they never got a stop at the waning moments of the game.
But what about the idea that Kerr, your former teammate, he had his back against the wall? The reason why Kawhi went off on that 10-0 personal run and did take the lead, and that it caused Kerr to take a couple of timeouts in it, leaving him with only one timeout left. He could not stop that run towards the end of it, because he's not going to use his last time out with 3 minutes to go. Instead, Nick Nurse, because he didn't want to lose the timeout that he was going to lose if he didn't call it, because they were going to be under 3 minutes. He's the one who stopped. He's the one who gave the Warriors also a chance to regroup and get a blow here. And we all saw what happened after that.
Yeah, well, you have to stop the other team. And to me, the heart and soul of both teams is their ability to get a stop. You can score as many points as you want. It wasn't a lot of points scored last night if you compare them to the 4 previous games, but defensively, you have to have your guys in sync to get a stop at that stage of the game. And the Warriors were able to score, and that to me was the deciding factor of the game. It wasn't about what I was doing offensively. That last possession for the Toronto Raptors to me was a great defensive sequence, because you looked at the Warriors, and what the Warriors did, they guarded Kawhi with 3 players. They had Klay on them. Mm-hmm. Then they bring Andre Iguodala at a very unique angle. Yes. And then Draymond is guarding 3 people on the other side. He's guarding Van Fleet. He's guarding Marc Gasol, and he gets out and recovers.
He even blocked the shot on Lowry.
So that what they were doing, they say, we have to get a stop in order to win this game. And I think the Raptors were doing the same. We can focus in on the offensive end, but defensively, look, if you have a chance to win at a championship level, you have to stop the other team at some point. And they weren't able to do it. And when I say the Toronto Raptors weren't able to do it. They just needed one stop. That's all they needed was one stop last night. They win the game. But overall, you know what? They had a chance to win it. if you say, hey, we got a chance to win it with one shot at the end, I'm going to take those chances. And last night they didn't make that shot. So here we are going into game 6.
BJ Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen Show. Do you think Durant should have played last night?
I have such mixed emotions, but the answer is no. I've dealt with this many times as an agent. I dealt with it as a player myself. I've had 6 surgeries playing, and if I could go back in time and tell my younger self, I probably wouldn't have played, because there's 2 sides to every athlete. There's the player that wants to play, that's a warrior, wants to go out there, and then there's the person. And looking back on it, I had like 4 or 5 surgeries where I know I probably shouldn't have come back to play. Looking back on it now as a 51-year-old man. But back then, I wanted to play. I wanted to be a part of the team. Kevin Durant, I wish, and I'm sure he did, I'm sure he could have reached out to former players or people who've been in this situation. My answer to him is no, he shouldn't have played. There's too much at risk. And what I mean by too much at risk is this young man I know wanted to get out there and be in a place where we all dream of playing. We want to play in the NBA Finals. We want to play for a championship. But you have to respect the game itself. And the game is, you don't just take a month off and then come back and play in the finals, right? There's no way for you to get your conditioning. There's no way to get the reaction. But more importantly, like your body, that's why we have a month of training camp to get ready for the season. You just don't take a month off, and especially when it's a lower extremity injury, and then all of a sudden come out there and be ready to play at the level that game is being played at. But again, that was his call. And, I had a player that I represent currently still is Derrick Rose. And those were some of the most difficult conversations that I've had, because you're dealing with human nature. The D Rose character wanted to play. But Derrick Rose, I had to talk to Derrick Rose, because Derrick Rose is the person that has to live with this decision for the rest of his life. And that's always tough, because the player sometimes is the most dominant of the personalities. And I just felt awful for Kevin Durant, because you knew in his heart of heart that he wanted to play. He wanted to contribute. He wanted to be there. But at the same time, the respect that you have to give this game and these athletes, and you have to really prepare yourself for that moment is, sometimes you just have to say, you know what, I want to do it, but the body won't allow me to do it at that time.
Well, you say, again, BJ Armstrong here on the show, you say you watch every game twice.
Yes.
You said, okay. So then the first time you watched the game live, were you thinking after the 11-point first quarter, seeing the Warriors get a clear jolt, looking like a totally different team and a must-have game, were you sitting there thinking he still shouldn't be playing right now?
Well, when I saw how he was running up and down the court, I didn't like it. I didn't like his gait. I didn't like how he was extending, and I saw him moving gingerly as he was going up the court. He wasn't exploding up the court. He was just kind of taking his time. He was walking into his shots. Now, he made them, got the results he was looking for, but I look at things, players' ability to react. Like, the one play, I think he got knocked down on a defense, I think his very first foul, like he just didn't react to the play. And to me, that's a sign. Defensively is where you are the slowest to recover, because it requires you to react. Offensively, I know what I'm going to do. I know if the ball is going to swing, I can step into it and shoot. But defensively, he didn't really react. Now, he got up, he popped up, he took the physicality, took the blow, but I just didn't like how he was moving. I didn't like his gait as he was exploding up the floor. I mean, he is like a beautiful athlete, meaning he runs, he extends, he covers ground. If you just watch like the first minute or two of the game, he was walking gingerly, and I just didn't like that when I saw the first couple minutes or so of the game.
So then keep your agent hat on for a second, BJ. What's Rich Kleiman, his agent, thinking today, do you think?
Well, I think you have to think about the person, right? At this point of the game right now, you can't cry or worry about what happened. You have to deal with the situation, because you have a young man right now that has to deal with the decision, whatever happens. I don't know if it's been announced.
No, he's going to New York to get an opinion on it, Chris. Is that what you're saying right now?
Yeah, he's going to New York to get evaluated.
Which means the MRI must have come back. I guess we shouldn't sit here and WebMD or try and speculate here. I don't want to break a HIPAA law either. you know. But I mean, I'm in all seriousness though. I mean, July 1 is sitting there,
right?
And I'm just I'm wondering, do you go to the front office? I mean, because obviously what you're saying last night, from what you saw, Kerr had to see it too.
Yeah.
All the assistants who know the game. Bob Myers, the general manager, who was very emotional afterwards.
He was.
You know, do we have that soundbite? Do we have that? If you don't mind, here. This is a portion of what Bob had to say last night. The general manager of the Warriors.
Kevin, I don't believe there's anybody to blame, but I understand this world. And if you have to, you can blame me. I run our basketball operations department.
I mean, you've dealt with him before. Obviously, you represent JaVale McGee, and you had Draymond in your arsenal for quite some time.
Yes.
What'd you make of that?
I feel for Bob, and because that's a tough situation. You're dealing with players who want to play. You're dealing with the ramifications of everyone knows how important this is. Everyone's caught up in the moment. But at the same time, you know, you have to deal with the person and knowing of, you know, what he's talking about is Kevin Durant, the person right there. And yeah, he's a great player. Yes, he helps us win games. Yes, he's one of the all-time greats. But in the end, you feel for a person because you know what that means to him. Basketball means something to Kevin Durant. And you saw the emotions of things we can't see as fans. And as an agent, I see that all the time. I don't worry about the player. These players are wonderfully gifted. They're talented, but the people. And I can only imagine what that must have been like for Bob and Rich Kleiman, his family, and for him, of what that must have been. That situation must have been like in that moment after the game. But you know what? You have to move on. Hopefully, he will get the support because the Warriors are a terrific organization. They will give him the emotional support, the mental support that he needs. Obviously, physically, he'll be able to rehab, but that's a tough one. And Bob, that was just tough. That's tough to come out for anyone that you really, you know, these guys are with each other, you know, practically all day. To see one of your brothers go down in that fashion when you know he's trying to give everything he can for the good of the whole, it was a tough call for him and the organization last night.
B.J. Armstrong here on the Rich Eisen show, and again the Durant of it all, and his legacy and his free agency and all that stuff we can place to the side for a moment. I personally think that that's going to be the subject of conversation starting tomorrow as we're waiting for Game 6 to show up on Thursday night. But all that said, when Game 6 hits, the Raptors were killing the Warriors on the pick and roll, just absolutely with the switches and the number of times that Boogie Cousins would find himself on the island at the top of the three-point arc, and sometimes Draymond would be up there too. I mean, the Raptors were torching him on that front. Do you think that when it's all said and done and the emotions of Game 5 calms down, having seen the game now twice, that the Raptors have the Warriors potentially on the ropes still?
Well, yes,
Game
they
6.
do. The Raptors have them on the ropes because of now you just have able bodies. You know, you need bodies to go out there and play. And, you know, Boogie found himself on the offensive end. He scored some points, and he really did some things. He did some things well out there on the offensive end. Defensively, though, Steve Kerr and his staff, they're very concerned about him because every time he's on the floor, they attack him. And that's a problem. And you saw Steve Kerr go away from Boogie last night. I mean, he went to Bogut early, then he went to Kevon Looney, and he started Draymond at the center position. But out of necessity, they had to go to Boogie and give Boogie credit as a professional. He responded under duress in a hostile environment. So I give him credit for being ready, being engaged, but that's going to be a problem for them. Is what are they going to do defensively when Boogie is on the floor? Because the Raptors are going to attack him and put him in every defensive sequence in the screen and roll.
And then conversely, I know Iguodala made the big shot of Game 2.
Yes,
he couldn't make a shot offensively last night, and Kerr had to remove him essentially towards the end of the game on the offensive end. But when it came time to wrap things up on the defensive end, he was remarkable again. So that seemed to be an issue for Kerr. It's amazing how they got out of there with a win last
Well,
night.
it was amazing, but last time I was here, Rich, Nick Nurse went to a zone and one.
The box and
a
one,
box
yeah.
and one,
Yeah,
yes. Last night he went to a diamond and two for a one possession. And I was like, this guy is great. So, he's give him credit. He's trying, and they're doing things on the defensive end. Now that they know Kevin Durant is not going to play, I think defensively they will come out with a plan, knowing what they have to do. Because Kevin Durant's presence on the floor changed everything for them. It changed how they were defending. They put Kawhi Leonard initially on Kevin Durant. It changed their spacing, changed their rotation. And I think the Warriors benefited from that. And we'll see how they respond in Game 6. It'll be very emotional. It'll be a great game. I'm sure you and I will both be glued to our televisions watching. And,
I might not watch it twice like you, but I will
I gotta watch to see what these guys are doing. So, but it was a great game. It was an epic game last night, and but I just in the end it was a bittersweet moment because you feel for Kevin Durant, and hopefully, and knowing that our prayers will be with him and he'll fight through this.
And the unspoken word and the emotions of a game and how that can potentially carry over. It's tough to not sit here and think. And again, I know you said Nick Nurse understands his team better than I would sitting here. And I know you're saying that the amount of energy that was expended to just get that 6-point lead was significant enough that he felt the need to call a timeout. It's just tough to sit here and not think that was their last best shot potentially to win this whole thing. I understand that they're healthier, and I understand that they're not a team that's going to fold, that they have a certain mental fortitude that is significant, and they take it from number 2, and they all soak it in, and they're a Kawhi-led team. It just feels that way to me right now.
Yes and no, but I will say this. First you got to respect the Warriors. The Warriors are not going to go down without a fight.
I mean,
they've proven.
Good Lord, right?
You got to knock them out, okay?
Yeah.
You're going to have to knock them out. In the end, the Warriors made such a commitment to Kawhi Leonard. It wasn't like the Raptors came back. Kawhi Leonard had a 10-0 run that it was basically 1 versus 5. Kawhi was like,
it's amazing.
Like it was like one of those moments. Like it's one of those. Wow, you're just watching this young man basically pick his moment, which was perfect timing to pick his moment where he was going to elevate his game to an entirely different level that no one else on the floor could play at. And he had like a stretch there. You just like it was Kawhi versus the Warriors, and Kawhi was winning that game. And the Warriors made a commitment to not only guard him with Klay Thompson. Andre was going to come and double, and Draymond Green was like the third defender. So clearly they are aware of how magnificent of a player Kawhi Leonard is. And it's important that you allow the other players to say, because I was one of those guys. It's only normal for them to only watch a Michael Jordan. Like I had to catch myself from time to time saying, I got to play because Michael Jordan was just doing things all by himself. Mm-hmm. So it could have been Coach Nurse could have said, look, guys, we have to get engaged, the other 4 guys, to figure out what we need to do and offensively to get themselves organized because Kawhi Leonard was going on a run all by himself, which was an incredible thing to watch last night.
So then ask the poll question of B.J. Armstrong as we send him out into the Los Angeles day, sir. What do you got over there, Chris? Ask him.
Who wins the championship? BJ, Warriors, Raptors?
Raptors are going to win this. I just think because they have the bodies and they have the youth. I think they just have more healthy bodies. But I will say this. Game 7 can be anybody's game. Game 7, I think the emotion will carry here in Game 6. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a tough game for the Raptors to win. But they are certainly a very capable team because defensively they will give the effort necessary. But I'm going to say the Raptors. I'm going to say the Raptors in 7. I think this goes 7, and it's anybody's game. But I think with the energy that's needed to do what the Warriors need to do, I just don't know if they have enough bodies to do it. I mean, you're asking these guys to play 40 plus minutes for the next 3 games and play almost mistake-free basketball, which I think is very difficult. But it's certainly shaping up to be a heck of a series. And I know it's going to be a great game there Thursday in Oracle, and we'll see what happens.
You know, who'd have thought it before the NBA Finals if I had told you that to avoid the crapshoot of a 7th game at home, the Raptors would have to win a 3rd straight at Oracle. It's crazy. I mean, this whole series has been absolutely nuts. Thanks for coming on, BJ.
Oh, thank you.
Really appreciate it. It's BJ Armstrong right here.
For more of The Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.